Yeah, the White House is on one right now. The White House is gaslighting everybody. They wrote a blog post on the 19th of July, late last week, to try to slide it out there, make sure they could point back to it, but no one really paying attention. And in it, what they said was, how do you measure a recession? And they claim, how do economists determine whether the economy is in a recession? But in the very first paragraph, they talk about how a recession is not defined as 2 consecutive quarters of negative GDP growth. Now, I don't know where they could have thought that everyone in the world thought that was the definition. A recession, as they claim here, is 2 consecutive quarters of falling real GDP, does not constitute a recession. That is neither the official definition nor the way economists evaluate the state of the business cycle. Bullshit. That is exactly what a recession is. If you go and talk to any market participant, you say, hey, how do you define a recession? They will all say the same thing, 2 consecutive quarters of negative GDP growth, period. Now what is happening is they're pointing to NBER, the National Bureau of Economic Research, which changed the definition of a recession last summer. And they're saying that instead, official determinations of recessions and economists' assessment of economic activity are based on a holistic look at the data. Well, yeah, I'd be saying that shit too if I thought we were in a recession. And that's why they're saying this stuff, is because they realize Q1 GDP growth was negative. Q2 GDP, which if they're releasing it this week, these folks already know what the number is. You don't accidentally post this and claim, oh, we just happen to be preparing people for a potential Q2 negative GDP number. Atlanta Fed, they claim exactly the same thing, that Q2 GDP would be negative. Here, a question was asked of Janet Yellen, if the technical definition is 2 quarters of contraction, you're saying that's not a recession? Janet Yellen, like, yo, come on, folks. That's not the technical definition. Bullshit. There's an organization called the National Bureau of Economic Research. Man, it sounds like they handed out talking points. It sounds like all of a sudden they all have the same talking points that looks at a broad range of data in deciding whether or not there's a recession. So now a recession is just opinion. Now there's no definition. We just, there's one organization that no one knows who works there. No one elected them. They just get to determine whether it's a recession or not. They're just gonna, yeah, we feel like today's a recession. Tomorrow, oh no, now we're not in a recession. What is going on? This is math. They're trying to make it politics. It's math. 2 consecutive quarters of GDP negative growth means it is a recession. Now, all of a sudden, we have this National Bureau of Economic Research. It sounds made up. Like, it literally just sounds like they just put a bunch of people in a room, they put some title on them and said, all right, y'all just determine when it's a recession. By the way, don't forget, we appointed y'all motherfuckers, so y'all gonna have to do what we say to do. This is wild. Go back to what else she said. Then she said, they look at the labor market, consumer and business spending, industrial production, and incomes. Based on these data, it's unlikely that the decline in GDP in the first quarter of this year, even if followed by another GDP decline in the second quarter, indicates a recession. That's the end of the first paragraph of the blog post. And then, of course, Yellen following up with same talking points. And most of the data that they look at right now continues to be strong. I'd be amazed if they would declare this period to be a recession, even if it happens to have 2 quarters of negative growth. We have a very strong labor market. When you are creating almost 400,000 jobs a month, that is not a recession. Now, let's say that these people have good intentions. Give them the benefit of the doubt. And if they have good intentions, what they're trying to say is GDP growth is likely to be negative in Q1 and Q2. But we have a strong labor market with strong employment, and consumer spending is still very healthy. That's fine, but say that. Don't tell us and gaslight us that a recession is not 2 consecutive quarters of GDP growth. That is exactly what a recession is. Instead, simply say, look, shit's hard. We're doing the best we can. It's a complex system. No one can predict the future. And therefore, we are going to enter recession because the Fed is destroying demand. So naturally, GDP growth is going to go negative. When that happens, we are technically in a recession. But this is not like the 2008-2009 global financial crisis. Instead, we still have strong employment. We still have great consumer spending. And this is a very unique type of recession. It's a stagflationary period. And therefore, while you may hear the word recession used because it meets technical definition, do not be alarmed in the same way that you were alarmed in 2008-2009. They would have way more credibility with people if they just simply stated that rather than gaslight everyone and say that a recession is not going to happen. Like, we're already in the recession and literally they're out here saying like, I don't see a recession coming. Come on now.